Hi everyone. I know I've been MIA for quite a while. I actually went on a special vegan diet, and so I haven't been taking a lot of cooking videos because I don't know what kind of appetite there is for vegan cooking out there. Maybe I should have, but I lost 60 pounds and now I am back into it. I'm back gardening. Things have just been kind of busy, so a few people have asked me for updates on the garden this year, so I'll give it to you here. First, check this little guy out I just saw. Hello, Hoppy. So here's what we have this year. Up here I have some honey nut squash. They're just getting started. I have a couple of those for the trellis. Honey nuts are supposed to be a little more stout than butternut, and to believe it or not, I have butternut in my freezer still. So we're gonna try those. This is also the first year I have grown and planted my own onions from seed. And so last year I saved seeds from the flowers. Here's one of the flowers that is currently ready to bloom soon. I let them dry up and I saved the seeds, and then I planted them inside to start these little plants. So they're about this big now. They're not super huge, but I've never tried it before, so it's an experiment. The one that's flowering out here was just out here from last year. Must have missed it when I pulled up the rest. But interestingly enough, I bought a whole bunch of onion seeds, and none of the onion seeds that I grew germinated. None. But all of mine did. I have hundreds of them. So we'll see how this one goes when we do some harvesting. Here is my regular first sowing of carrots. I did sow them and then thin them a little bit more than this year than last year, so we'll see how those do. They've been in there about 2 months, so they're starting to form roots. This is what I would call a rescue plant. This is my mother-in-law gave me a cutting of a grape plant, so a grapevine. So it just came back. It sort of died earlier and then came back. We'll see how that guy does. And then our regular sowing here for tomatoes. So this is a slicer tomato up front, these two are, and then as you go down, these are almost all Amish paste tomatoes here. Really focusing on salsas and sauces this year. This is a pear tomato, so I'm trying a different kind this year, like a yellow pear. And then these last couple down here are San Marzanos, so they're doing really well down here at the bottom. They get a little more water, so they're a little taller. But you can see there's some flowers starting on them. I haven't really seen any little, oh, as I say that, here's the tiniest little tomato ever right inside there. So they're getting started and ready to go. Down at the end, as usual, I have beans here. It used to be that these two tomato cages, I was using them as trellises for my regular green beans. The ones I use are Seychelles, and they just go up. They climb right up there. So those were a nice use of these tomato cages that I really don't use for tomatoes anymore. So those are starting to get big and lots of flowers starting on them. But the fun surprise was these are supposed to be my bush beans over here right next to them. And they were these purple, I can't remember, they're purple queen or something like that. You can see a couple tiny little baby beans are getting started here. They used to be bush beans, but they must have cross-pollinated because they are right next to my pole beans. So now these guys are running up. So I've got one actual bean that didn't run. So I've got one bush bean, and then all the rest of these are those purple majesty or purple queen, whatever they're called. So we're working with some bamboo stakes, and I'm going to throw some sideways ones in here as well so that they have room to climb, but getting started on green bean season. Just behind them, I have my celery plants. So here's 1, 2, 3 celery plants. I did harvest just the tiniest bit of celery off of them. There were a couple larger, maybe it must have been this plant, a couple larger stalks like this that I harvested and used for some potato salad. So it was really good. This is my rosemary plant. I actually bought this in the produce section of Walmart because I like rosemary, but I don't like having to buy it. So what I'm hoping to do is just plant this. It was only $3, which was cheaper than the ones in the actual growing section, is to grow it and then dry it. So I have herbs. This is another surprise. Look how big this thing is. This comes up to my waist. This is parsley. I had a parsley plant here last year. It started growing, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let it go. But it went straight to flowering, and we're about to get some seeds out of it. So I thought, you know what? I have never saved seeds on an herb plant like that before, just basil. So I'm just gonna let it go wild and see what happens. Over here, I have 4 that I bought. I bought these, so do not give me credit for growing these from seed. These are Brussels sprouts, sorry. And you can see that they're not really started at all yet. They're usually better in the cool season, but they're doing okay out here for now. I don't have any crazy amounts of cabbage moths yet, knock on wood, so hopefully they will do okay. And it takes a really long time to grow these, so probably not until September or October will I be looking at harvesting those. Right next to it, I have one of my 2 zucchini plants starting to flower. So you see lots of buds in there. Here's the second one here. Last year, if you remember, I planted some things that I thought were like winter squash, and they turned out to be zucchini. So we had so much zucchini, I couldn't even count. So I only have 2 plants this year. That should be enough for zucchini bread and zucchini brownies and all the things. So over here, I have all my peppers. You'll see lots of pepper plants all down here, coming all the way up here. And I'll tell you about some of the varieties that are special. These 2 are poblano peppers. I really enjoyed these last year. When I had them, I made lots of chili kind of like enchiladas with them that I really enjoyed. So 2 poblanos, those are for me. And then up here we have some of our just like bell peppers. I can't remember the actual brand. These are seeds I saved from last year. All of these were grown from seeds from last year, actually. My peppers, tomatoes, onions, squash, all of these were from last year's seeds, so I'm really proud of that. This one is one of my new ones. It's a ghost pepper, so we'll see how that one goes. My family always teases me that my peppers are deadly, so I thought, well, I might as well try a ghost pepper this year. And here's a volunteer tomato that's growing here. I'm letting those grow everywhere. There's a whole bunch throughout the garden that you'll see as I take these videos. My tomatoes sort of self-seeded themselves, and I thought, what's another tomato plant? This is also a new pepper. This one is called Pequeño, and it is a bush variety, and they're small peppers, ones that you would just pluck off and eat like a cherry tomato. So I thought those would be good for the girls. And then here's a rogue carrot plant. You'll see a lot of those too. They just started popping up everywhere, so we're gonna let them. More bell peppers and a few jalapenos down here towards the end. So hopefully this will give us enough to freeze some. Haven't really seen, I mean, I've got little flowers and buds starting on them, but nothing is coming yet. It's just starting to get the hot season here, so we're starting to get into the 80s now. So that's this side of the garden. Down the middle here, here's another tomato that just decided to grow itself. That one's waist high. And then I've got my peas and a milkweed plant. I'm letting them go too because I like the butterflies in the garden. Lots of peas getting started. Not quite ready to pick and eat all of them yet, but lots of flowers. So I've got those all down this side. And then I decided, I did my melons on this trellis before, but I decided they weren't really worth it. They were so small, they didn't taste sweet, or they got too big because I was waiting for them to get bigger, and they were no good. So we're gonna do cucumbers here this year. I've also sowed these out of the seeds that I have saved from last year. So we've got a couple down here. These are National Pickling, this one and this one. This is the Merlin, which I really like because it's a smaller cucumber. So they grow a little bit faster, but I had really good luck with them not getting super mealy. And then down here, these ones are ones I bought seed from the store that I had left over. I thought, I don't even know if they're any good. So you can see this one's really pretty small. That one's quite a bit bigger. Those are just those point-set regular slicing cucumbers. So hopefully a little bit of everything in Cucumber Alley here this year. These are my sadness. This is my well, it was my blueberry bush. It was in a pot on my deck. It started getting some leaves early in spring, and you could see maybe a few buds on it that were starting, and then it just died. So I planted them back here thinking maybe I could revive them. I haven't seen any signs of life yet, but we're gonna wait to see what happens next spring. I also decided down here I planted some of my Jack B. Little pumpkins just yesterday, so they're not up yet, but I want those to trellis sort of off this way and take over the back of the garden. And those are the tiny little pumpkins that you can decorate your home with and let your kids paint and stuff. And then over here is the second blueberry bush I had. We had a storm, sorry, got lots of little twigs everywhere. This is that second little blueberry bush that I had. Again, same thing, I think it's pretty much dead. But I planted here in some of the extra space then to trellis off this way my Connecticut pumpkins. And those are more like the ones you would use for jack-o'-lanterns or big pumpkins. In the back, as usual, I have my broccoli, and I'm really excited. I'm starting to see some little heads forming. These are all planted from seed as well. So a couple of little guys in here. Most of these are Sun King, Calabrese, or sprouting. So I've got several, I think 7 plants of those. Not counting the fact that some of these spaces have more than one growing out of them. And then next to it, I bought these. So again, cannot take credit for these ones, but these are cauliflower. Oh, look at that. I didn't even see that yesterday. Look at, there's cauliflower starting in there. That's so exciting. So we've got some, oh my goodness, some getting started already. I'm really excited about that. I know that's super nerdy, but I like cauliflower, and I've been using it in my vegan cooking. I do a lot of like cauliflower bites that you can like bread with panko and then put orange sauce on, like kind of like Chinese food. So I thought, well, I have these spaces open. I didn't get as many broccoli starts as I thought I would. I'll throw in some of these. So see how those do. Probably noticing everywhere you look, you're seeing dill. I haven't planted dill in 4 years. It just keeps seeding itself. So I've been picking it. I'll show you, I got a big bunch the other day, but I've been picking it and just drying it. My mom wants some, and I'll use some for pickles, hopefully. Down the middle here, I showed you these peas just a moment ago. You'll see I have shade cloth here. I have never used shade cloth before, but there was shade cloth, or I decided to buy this shade cloth because in the future week coming up, I saw it was supposed to be 80 and almost 90 degrees. And I have all of my lettuces down here. So these are romaine, and then I'll show you when I get to the other side. These are iceberg. And then all down here, I had my spinach. Well, the spinach is done now. So I have actually replanted just this morning some red beets here, golden beets here, and a few more carrots down here. And then as I pull up all of this lettuce, I'll put more carrots here. But on the other side, you know, it's a U-shaped trellis. So we got peas on this side. The shade cloth gives a nice coverage to those greens, and it's also, I think, been helping those peas stay nice and light. And then it shades over here. So the peas get morning and evening sun, but just not middle day. All the way in the back here, these are onions. They just keep growing themselves. These are the ones I keep saving the seeds from. So I have already told everyone if they need onion seeds, just ask and I will send them to you. But here are some of my watermelon. I started these and they were looking sad, but they're starting to come back now that the weather is heating up. So I've got, I think this side is, and dill. This side is the Crimson Sweet. And then I planted over here some more just a couple of weeks ago. So I've got a couple more babies. I wasn't sure if the first ones were going to make it. And then I totally failed on my inside starts for cantaloupe. So I planted a few out here. Actually, I planted this entire thing from left to right here with cantaloupe, and only 2 came up. So again, these were some seeds I had from the store. I just bought and threw them in, thought, well, if they grow, they grow. So most of my melons back here, and then gonna allow them to trellis across this area where there's nothing in here where I usually do beets. And if they wanna go up and around this area where the broccoli is, once that's out, they'll have plenty of room. So, and then I just have a couple more over here. One I started a couple weeks ago, and then this one is a Dixie Queen, which I think was our favorite the last time that I planted watermelon that successfully grew. So lots of melons back here, and then the volunteer onions. A new experiment I'm doing this year, I usually grow my potatoes in these grow bags. I think they're 5-gallon grow bags. And I've had luck in the past, but last year everything dried out while I was gone for the 4th of July, so I ended up with almost no potatoes, like maybe a couple handfuls of fingerling potatoes. But I have 3, this one, and this one in grow bags. And then over here, what I did was I cut a square hole in my fabric, and I just planted a bunch of potatoes that I had left over in my cupboard that were sprouting. So these are not real seed potatoes. These are just potatoes I had, and I threw them out here. And then right behind me, I did the same over here. I just cut out a square, dug it all up, threw some potatoes I had from my cupboard in there, and they're doing amazingly. So I've got red potatoes in one and white in the other, like an Idaho russet. I don't really remember which one is which. I want to say based on the shape of the leaf that these are the red ones and these are the russets, but I guess we'll find out. But this is an experiment because when I first started gardening, I grew all of my potatoes in the ground, and I remember having such an amazing harvest. And then I switched to doing them in these buckets because it was easier to harvest. I would just dump out the bucket, put it right in a wheelbarrow, pick out the potatoes, and that was super easy. But then they all died last year. So we're going to just sort of compare what we get from both of those. These are my daughter's pride and joy. She planted these from seeds she saved herself from our hollyhocks that are way on the other side of the yard from here. But we put these in here because, well, I just love hollyhocks. And then also because I love that they bring in the pollinators. So you see lots of buds here. We're going to be getting some any day now. Down the side here, we've got 3 rows of corn. I know you're usually supposed to plant 4, but the 4th row down here was sort of taken over by some onions that I had planted when I had extra room. So we've got 3 rows of corn. And let me tell you, this is one of my biggest successes. And why is it my biggest success? Because all of this corn, every last one of them, was grown from seed that I saved. So I'm just super proud of that. I've had very little cost to my garden this year, other than purchasing some seed garlic, which was pretty expensive. I'll show you that in a minute. And the purchase of a couple of plants. I showed you the cauliflower and the Brussels sprouts. Everything else was grown from seed I saved, all on my own. So super cheap year this year. This is a chocolate cherry tomato. First year I'm growing this one. You can see lots of little flowers on there. And I want to say, ooh, look at the tiniest little tomatoes are starting. I've also got an understory here of more tomato plants that are growing. These are from the cherry tomatoes that were last year. So you'll see that on both of the cherry tomatoes I have over here. I think one is Super Sweet 100. That must be this one. You can see some are starting here. And then I've got the chocolate cherry, which I just thought was kind of cool and wanted to try. So we should be getting these really any day now. We're going to get a ton of them. Here you can see even more of those peas getting started. Probably going to eat that one. They're so good. So then at the very top of the garden, last thing I have here, this is my seed garlic. So what I did was I bought like 6 different kinds and I put them in rows. One here, 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 and here. And I wanted to see which ones grew the best. So I have a map inside to see what works, but it doesn't really look like it's working in general. They are growing up. This is one of the bigger ones, but they're not really that big. And they're already starting to sort of brown and yellow. And that usually is starting to be a sign of getting close. Like within a month, they should be ready to harvest. They're also all hardneck varieties. So they all have these garlic scapes that are coming out of the middle and they kind of curl around. And then as they're ready to bloom, these are where the flowers would come out of. They go straight up. I actually came through here and cut off a whole bunch of them and used them in a couple of dishes that I was having, some pesto and so forth, and they were really delicious. So if you haven't tried it, I say try it. I suppose maybe these look like they're a little bigger too, but again, ultimately, I feel like I'm not sure how they're going to turn out. I guess we'll find out in about a month or so. Waiting for about the bottom 3 sets of leaves to turn brown, and then we'll give it a shot. So that is the garden. Here, I'll just give you one more quick view so you can see where everything is since I walked you through it. this is the backyard garden so far this season. And then I have another garden, as you know, up on the side of my house. This is where my berries and my raspberries and my strawberries are, sorry. So lots and lots of raspberries you can see here. There's a bunch of little berries getting started on here. I usually don't expect too much from summer berries because for us in like August and September, when it starts to cool down at the end of August and beginning of September, that's when we really get a ton. But lots and lots of raspberries here. And then hiding behind is what's left of my rhubarb. I have picked so much rhubarb to make rhubarb strawberry jam and rhubarb cake, all the things. I haven't seen any flowers yet, which is really unexpected. Usually I see flowers and I have to snap them off so it doesn't bolt, but I don't know why, but we haven't had any yet. So maybe the cooler temperatures we've been having have done something for them. You'll also see a ton of what I think is flea beetle damage to these plants, so they're struggling this year. So here's all those raspberries on this side. And then right around the back side of them, you'll see these are my pride and joy, my strawberries. I have had enough to make, let's see, 3 batches of strawberry jam. So we're talking about maybe about 8 or 12 quarts probably of strawberries. These ones are kind of small, but I did do some fertilizing of these plants last fall and then again in the spring, and it's an organic fertilizer. I can show you here in a moment, but I have gotten so much bigger berries from them. I just came out here and picked, so there's not anything too exciting to show you, but I just picked a ton of them and made even more jam. So they were doing really well this year. I think I'll fertilize again the way I did last year. And then you might notice I've got the mulch in here. I came through before the flowers set on these and I put mulch all over and even into the raspberries to try to help retain the moisture over here. And then we've had like the most rain we've ever had. So I guess it's all for whatever, but at the end here, these are some chocolat. They're supposed to be kind of an orangey color when they come out. Sunflowers, they were in a pot, but they were not doing well. So I threw them in the garden here. I know you're not really supposed to plant sunflowers close to other things, but it's where I put them. And then this is my guard owl. I don't know that he's doing his job so well. We're gonna call him Larry. Larry the garden owl. Because he's supposed to be keeping the birds out of there. And he's not doing his job. I have a few pots of flowers. I can't remember what this one is, so I gotta actually dig it out. This one is, Gardenia Sunshine Blend. So these are so slow. I am not a flower grower. If you know how to grow flowers, tell me, when do you start them? Because I started these like what seems forever ago, and this is all I've got. I started them inside probably in February or March. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But here's a couple more strawberries in here. You can see about the size I've been getting. I'd say like ping pong ball and even sometimes up to golf ball size. A few of them have been bigger. So I'm really proud of that. The last thing that I want to share with you are some of the items up on my deck. And these are mostly flowers. Again, I do not know how to grow flowers all that well. I'm totally a self-taught gardener, so if you have tips, tell me. These are some, not pansies. I can't even think of the word right now. But they are a vining crop, or a vining flower, and they usually go in hanging baskets. You know, the big circle ones that are just like trumpet flowers almost. I'll throw the name on the screen, but a couple of these ones, I started them and I thought I should start them early because flowers always take forever. Well, then they were climbing all over my window in the middle of March. So those ones all died. These are my second planting. We're going to try them. And I honestly do not remember what this is. I know I planted it at the same time as these flowers here, but they never came up. I thought they were a lost cause, and now here we are. Some more of these are sunflowers. Just for fun, the girls like to look at them up on the deck. This is my lemon plant I bought last year or the year before, I think 2 years ago actually. And it was inside. It lost all its leaves, of course. I put it in the windowsill, but it just didn't do very well. And then I brought it outside and it was so happy. So Minnesota, it looks sad in the winter, but I did actually get 2 little lemons on it that didn't even turn yellow, but I picked them off and I used them and they tasted amazing. So this is supposedly a Meyer plant, and it's grown a lot of new shoots, so that's good. This is my lavender. I also tried to overwinter my lavender, and it made it a few months and then pretty much died in January. So this is a brand new one from seed. This is extremely hard for me to grow. I've tried many times, but I'm proud of this one. I've got some basil here that I'm growing up on the deck. I'm gonna pinch off the tops here because I don't want them to bolt and I want them to bush. So I'll just pinch those flowers off while we're here. A couple little herbs I had started inside. They're not looking so happy. These really stink for growing in. I don't like them, but I had them and I thought I would try it. So I've already harvested some, but here's thyme, oregano, and sage. I'll probably just pick this, whatever it gives me, and dry it and use it in my cooking. Another one of my successes is this flower. I love lobelia. I think the color is so pretty, and I love it in my red, white, and blue flower pot in the front yard. So I thought I'll try to grow it from seed. I started growing it again. It looked real sad, and I thought, it's never going to grow. But then check it out. Look at me. I did it. And the very last one here, these are just some random marigolds I got planted from seeds I saved last year. And this is salvia. I've never gotten my salvia to grow so well. And I've got several little spikes coming up. So I guess we'll see how that goes. So thanks for coming along with me while I went through the garden, showed you everything. I hope you enjoyed. If you have flower tips, I am open to anything and everything you tell me about timing on them. Thanks so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.